Welcome to the Spiritual Sweet Spot, a place where you can rejuvenate your soul. Hosted by author M.B. Mosley. This is a safe space for all. We're back. We are back. Get in here. Get in here. Get in here. Love, peace, and happiness to you, family. I'm so excited to be back here with you all again, sending positive vibes to you, sending love energy to you and yours. Yes, get in here, get in here. We are concluding on this whole entire intimate relationship talk. We are concluding. Never quite complete. We're concluding the series. So if you are joining us for the first time, please check out the other episodes so that this last part of the episode will further resonate with you. All right, family. So we have been talking about intimate relationships. Wink, wink. Intimate relationships. So in conclusion to the episodes of intimate relationships, one thing that I observed and experienced as it pertains to intimate relationships, and perhaps we could say as it pertains to finding success in these intimate relationships. There was one main ingredient, and everything else stems from that ingredient, from my experience. And that was self. Yes. S.E.L.F. Understanding who self is. Not understanding who my aunt is, not understanding who my husband is, not understanding who my sister is, but understanding self. Understanding self before I embarked in a commitment. And we've been talking about a lot of great points, but the importance of understanding self, right? We always put that together saying that we are continually evolving. So I'm not necessarily insinuating that you have to come to this complete understanding of self. No. We're continually evolving, but understanding the most important parts of self. So we're going to break it down furthermore as it pertains to self. Earlier on, we talked about mission statements. We talked about core values, the things that govern your morals, your values, you know, perhaps your ethics, things that govern you as an individual. But now let's dive a little bit deeper. Before embarking on intimate, successful relationships, not even before, but as it pertains to embarking on or embarking in relationships, intimate relationships with people, it is more important. What is it? More importante? It's most important to understand self. What is it that you want to obtain from a relationship? And understand that I said, what is it that you want to obtain from a relationship? I didn't say, what is it that you want from a relationship? What is it that you're willing to receive? How do you want the relationship to show up in your life? How is this relationship to serve you? And how are you, mainly you, how are you going to serve in this relationship? So let's go into the acronym of SELF. Seek, evolve, love, fulfillment. Seek, evolve, love, fulfillment. This part of the podcast is now going to resonate, and I should say may resonate with everyone, whether you are seeking to be in an intimate relationship, whether you are in a committed relationship, whether you are whole where you are. But we're going to jump into the acronym of SELF: seek, evolve, love, fulfillment. Now, when we look at the acronym there, we're going to put seek, the word seek, and right next to seek, we're going to say self. So you're going to seek self. Seeking self means getting a deeper understanding of yourself, understanding what makes you, tick, what makes you not tick, what drives you, what motivates you, what's your passion. I believe just finding out the few elements and not being too hard on yourself and not trying to paint the perfect Picasso, but really just digging deeper and going within. Digging deeper and going within. For myself personally, I had to come to a point where I had to tell myself, this is what I'm willing to compromise on in my mind. And then I had to tell myself, this is what I'm not willing to compromise on. One of the things that I was willing not to compromise on was a partner that drank or had substance habits. That was for my own personal health. That was a decision that I had to go within, seek self, and make it known to self. As I sought self in terms of the things that were moving me, the things that I was passionate about. Of course, even when I was seeking myself, I was finding out the things that made me really happy within my being. When I found myself in my writing mode, I found myself in my reading mode, I found myself at that time now that I had built the comfort of being by self, found myself just enjoying myself in researching and finding out information. I found that to be very, to be my safe space and to be very, very soothing. So then, and this is discovery coming about as I was seeking self, enjoying self at that time as well, and seeking self. And so it was also another element in my mind that I realized, you know what, whoever it is that I need to pair up with, they have to come with their own passions, with their own habits, healthy habits, but things that also make them move, things that they're excited about as well. That was another development as I sought self, because I realized how much time I spent cooped up on my laptop writing, or whether it was like sometimes I just like to stay indoors. On the weekend, stay indoors and read. I remember it used to be so entertaining because I belonged to the gym that I was going to. I belonged at that gym for about 9 years. And so, faces were familiar, the same crowd when you go around the same time, a gentle nod, a gentle smile, good morning, how are you, so forth, just knowing faces and so forth. But, every now and then a man would try. Cute. A man would try, and I used to, what was crazy was because now, and then especially towards my sobriety. So, one of the questions I will always, is this part always, it's always fresh in my mind, because one of the questions most guys always ask, right? Hey, how you doing? Okay, I always see you in the air, small talk and whatever. And then it's like, so what do you do for fun? And I'm like, I work, I go home, I read, I write, and then every now and then watch a movie at home. And I remember this one guy saying, that's it? That's all you do? I remember the look on his face, guys. And I was like thinking, yeah, that's it. And to me, that was the epitome of like heaven. I lived like when I went to work, I lived to go home. Like, let's go. It would be 8:30 a.m. and I'm looking at my wristwatch like it's time to go home. That's who I was, because home was my sanctuary, especially when I attained the sobriety and I was, making healthier decisions and steps for myself. And so I will never forget that look, him saying, that's it? And I'm thinking, how rude. Yeah, that's it. He was like, that's boring. I mean, you don't do anything. And I'm thinking, what else am I supposed to do? Like, I mean, of course, other than the mundane, I mean, sis will go traveling once in a blue moon, but that wasn't every weekend, right? So, and then I was comfortable in that response because then at that moment, that's who I was. That's who I was. And still who I am. But in that moment, that's who I was. Now, an old self would have been like, well, trying to shove stuff in so I could be a little bit cool because the guy was hot. You know what I'm saying? So trying to be hip, I've been shoving stuff, I do this and I do, just trying to pile a list on of frivolous things. But that wasn't me anymore. I literally enjoyed what I did, which was nothing. To most people, I guess to him. So that's why it's important, because understand, this is very important. How your relationship starts determines how your relationship evolves. If a relationship is founded and built in truth, honesty, integrity, respect, then you will know that you're able to put the center blocks or the building blocks to your relationships. But if a relationship starts off with lies, deception, distortion, disillusionment, then just know as you go along in that relationship, there will be a lot of rough edges around those blocks trying to hold that foundation. And it's not just deception and or deceit in the other person's on the other person's end, but it all starts with us, self. If you're lying to yourself on what you think you are, what you think you could do, how you think you can handle it, oh, it's fine. He said he's about to get divorced, so I'm going to just hang around because I really like him. And, we're going to be a cute couple. We look good together on Instagram for the gram, hashtag couple goals, and then you find yourself 6 months later, a year later, and perhaps even a man waiting for a woman telling him that she's about to get divorced, but you find yourself a year later, they're stringing you along on that deception, and you're lying to yourself, knowing your intuition, communicating to your heart, communicating to your mind, telling you, listen, we've been here for a year. We've been here for 2 years. This person is saying they're going to get divorced, and we keep, hanging around. Because people are married until they get divorced, allegedly. Sorry if I spoke that for somebody that's dating somebody that says they're separated. But, and like I said, to each its own, you build your own future. You're the one. You have free will. You decide what you want to deal with in life. You decide and determine how you want to deal with it in life, whether you realize it or not. The decisions you make today are the decisions that will directly affect your future and or your destiny. The choice is yours. So whether you want to start off with integrity, truth, honesty, and all of that jazz, then that's fine. Or whether you want to live in distortion, deception, just understand that there will be ripple effects along the way. And don't go running to go complain to your homies, or don't go running complaining to your homegirls, because you knew the truth, but you decided to gravitate to that. That's why it's important to seek self, because if self is understanding of self, then self would say, we're not doing this. And then with such a strong conviction to self, you would stand in the gap and say, you know what, I'm better than this. I'm not going to be strung along by any person that's claiming that they're going to get divorced and they're not. Divorces are not that expensive. If you really want to leave somebody, you make a way. You ever found out that people will make a way for money? People be like, oh, I don't have money for that. I don't have money for that. But for whatever it is they want to do, they will find money. Where there's a will, there's a way. Self deserves a lot of respect. Understanding that the part of seeking self as well goes total mind, body, and soul. There is no shame in anyone's game, realizing, recognizing perhaps your patterns, pathologies, and behaviors, especially from your environment. If you realize, you know what, perhaps I grew up in an environment with no parents at all, or no models, or no role models, or perhaps you even grew up in a home with parents physically there, but you feel that you're growing into yourself and you did not have role models on how to do healthy relationships. There's all kinds of resources for that. Splurge on yourself. There's relationship coaches out here. There is therapists. Okay, that's part of seeking self. So, because here's the thing you don't ever want to do, which is old, they're old lessons, right? You can either learn from your own lessons or learn from expensive lessons. Choose which one you want to do. I was going to say the one thing you don't want to do is kind of get strung along and be out there in limbo, but that's also a life lesson. Those tend to be lessons as well. They're old lessons. All right, so we're going along the acronyms for the word self. So we got the first one is seek. We've covered that. And then now the next part on the E, self, S-E, is evolve. We put next to evolve self. Evolve self. We're continually evolving. It's the beauty of life. Continually discovering ourselves, continually evolving in beliefs, continually evolving in values. This is part of our journey here on earth. Perhaps you take time to sit down, to dig deep within, or to go within, seek higher self if need be. And you know what I like to do sometimes? Get notes from lower self. Because it's like lower self, we're not going to do what we did before, but let's just do a rehash real quick. Let's just, I get to the memory bank there, drawing from lower self. Like, I didn't like that version of myself. That one has to go. Don't hang out with lower self too much. Just get the relevant information you need, because you need to continually evolve. Go visit lower self, vacation for a week or two, but don't stay there. Just saying. All right. So evolving within itself it's a point of growth. It's a part of humanity. And you could take the word evolve and look at yourself, look at where you've come from, and as it pertains to intimate relationships, where you're going. Perhaps you may even want to, as you seek self and as you understand your evolution, perhaps you may even want to put a category for yourself as you go on within the existence on earth, but as for your partner as well. I don't know about you all, but stagnation is just not a part and parcel of my joy bone. But I do understand that life does give us lessons. Life has forced me to be stagnant before. I didn't like it. It's uncomfortable. It's like, oh my gosh, but it's about living in the now. But understanding that, and I'm going to the point of saying that perhaps when you're gravitating to your evolution and you're evolving in your humanity as an individual, perhaps the intimate relationship you might want to pull in or desire is a person that's evolving as well. There is no greater joy getting together with a soul that's on the same path as you, same understanding as you, same evolution as you. That's why it's important to seek self and understand self. Some of these energies, if you are not discerning, if you are not sure of who self is, can come in a pretentious manner, in a persona, latch onto you. Those are the ones that come in the first 3 months there. This is it. I have found the person I've been looking for. Long-term wise, you find yourself, your heart, your emotions, your feeling, everything is invested, and they start to reveal who they are. Because perhaps we were caught a little bit sleeping away, and perhaps we hadn't taken enough time to seek self, to understand what we want to stand in conviction of as it pertains to our soul and spirit and our life. So perhaps this soul being, incarnated, low vibrational being comes, uh, is cunning, charming, does everything right initially. And then the next thing you know, because you are just going according to your mind, body, and soul with the high vibrations of this earth. And the next you know, this person is a stagnant stooge. And understand that stagnation does not necessarily mean unsuccessful or anything, but because we listen, when you know yourself and you go with the ebbs and flows of life, you learn to lean into it. But there's some energies that are just like stagnant, and that's it. And when they're stagnant, they want to purposely pull you down to stagnation. No one is going anywhere. You had dreams of a life in big mansions with big pools and so forth, and you knew the steps to get there. And all of a sudden, this entity right here that conned its way into your life does not believe in that. Energy is just draining you away, wasting you away. That's why you always hear me say it's important to seek self, is also to understand your energy, to understand what you shall allow within your bubble. Remember, I will always say they will come like, that's why for me, the older I got in sobriety, and because I always reference it to my sobriety, because that's when the start of my spirituality also started. It's when I realized that looks were not that significant in my life. And now I'm not saying give me a chupacabra, but let's just make that clear. But it was not the first thing. It was not the first thing, because sometimes we could get wrapped up in a type 10 girl or in a type 9 girl. A rank, the rank, then some guys rank women. So you might get caught up in that dream girl on the outside, but she just might be the lowest vibrational being that you've ever seen in your life. Just mean as a 3-legged dog and don't like anybody. She don't like the mornings. She don't like the afternoons. She does not like the evening. She doesn't even like you. Now your energy is all out of whack because you saw the outside of the package. Same thing as men, women. We might see this, dashing, hot guy, because that's what we look for first on the surface. I'm not saying you should. It's just an example. And then the next thing you know, he comes in. He's not going anywhere. IQ, I don't know, so low, but over here just calling you all kinds of names, pulling out of you the things that you were trying to get over from yourself, right? The bad talks you'd had as a teenager, or perhaps the life you're trying to leave behind as you were evolving. You were just getting into the positivity and the positiveness of your life. I am beautiful. I am gorgeous. I am embracing, and all things flow through me and all this other stuff. And then this dude come in your life, tell you the opposite, the dark parts of your lower self that you're trying not to come out. You are fat. You are ugly. Why don't you go work out? Nobody will ever want you. And then there goes that energy. I will always pop this in here as long as we're doing this part with intimate relationships, because it's very important. It hurts my heart to the core, because when I press to express that, it's a ripple effect. When relationships start off in deception, rough, jagged foundations that are distorted, disillusioned, filled with lies, then sometimes in these relationships you see a procreation of life. That's what I'm trying to protect, is the child, the soul that comes onto the earth. And technically, if we want to talk about it, if you got your spiritual goggles on and you got your shovel, you want to dig deep a little bit, we do have soul contracts, but we're not talking about that right now. But let's just talk about what we know, what we see without the spiritual goggles. Right? Without the spiritual goggles, this child comes upon into this, this recipe. All right. So now, as we dig deeper into the word self as it pertains to intimate relationships, you could take this self acronym and put it into all relationships, all the relationships that govern you. All right. Now we are on the letter L on self, S-E-L, and L is for love. And then next to love, we put self. Love self. You're seeking self to evolve self, and you got to love yourself the way you are and where you are and who you are. You are on this journey as self. You, mind, body, and soul, your soul and your spirit are here having this human experience. So you have to love yourself first. You have to love yourself first so that that energy could be drawn to you. That person that comes into your life will know how to love you like you have loved yourself. So you will have an understanding that if they come into your life and love you less, they have no business being in your life. Because you could say, you know what? I love me some self a whole lot. You're giving me 25%. This is not it. Because I give 100% for myself, to myself, to love every being, every fabric, every ounce of myself. All of you, every part of you. Love it. Love it. Embrace it. You have to learn how to love yourself before you can even attract an intimate partner. This is all going as if you are going for committed relationships, right? Definitely. This talk has stages. This whole self-talk here has stages if you're going for committed parts. But listen, if you like to be just out kicking it, doing what you got to do what you got to do. No judgment here. Do what you got to do. But you absolutely have to love self if you want that committed. You desire that committed relationship, that person that needs to come into your life. Because if you don't know how to love yourself wholeheartedly, the way you are, your fabric, your make, your being, then how is this other person supposed to do that? Then they come in at 50%. You're not even sure if it's love or lust, but they're just there. Now you settle, you take whatever it is that, that comes. 5 years down the road, you're disgruntled, but remember, you have free will and choice. You put yourself in there. Better get yourself out. Just kidding. You got to figure it out. Let's say that. Let's just be nice. You got to figure it out. All right. Love every part of yourself. This part resonates with me. It resonates with me so deep. I never knew how to love myself. I never knew how to embrace my body for the longest time, ever since the hips started coming in at 12, 13, the hips, the butt, the boobs. You know what I'm saying? As soon as they started coming in my life, I didn't like those attributes. And it was not like I would look in the mirror and say, I hate him. I just, because I just wanted to be like, I felt like regular to me was super skinny, like runway models. That's what I felt regular was. And maybe because it had a lot to do with the fact that I wanted to be a model. But, sis is like 5'3". Like I got little itty bitty legs, like I'm short, allegedly, you got to be tall or something like that. I don't know. That's what they said. I had to be like 6 or something like that, whatever. Tall, slender, lanky, whatever you want to call it. But I digress. So, yeah, I digress big time. So at that time, the seeds started sipping through my mind. Right? Because I was, and I wouldn't say rejected at this age now, but at that point as a teenager, it felt like rejection, trying to try out for the auditions. And, sorry, they were really nice. It was all about the height, but I knew as well, like I was voluptuous. I didn't look like those girls in there. So definitely that subconsciously did something into my mind. So I would try to cover up parts of my body or try to, I was not comfortable in my own skin because of the narrative that had been playing in my mind and what I wanted. That's what I thought was beauty for me, or was what I was supposed to look like. So how come I'm voluptuous? I look like this, but the models, I want to look like a model. I wanted to look like a runway model. That's what I wanted. That just wasn't in my genetic makeup. And so at that age, it was hard to even be in my skin. So when boys started giving me attention, I was like, what? You know what I'm saying? This really, but I still didn't know how to love myself. Trust and believe every day is a learning process from getting away from old lower self thinking. It is. And thank you, Kim K. And the butt and boobs and, whatever you want to call it, trend or whatever it is. But even when all that trends came out, people with the big butts and, the boobs, I still had a hard time embracing these parts because I was like, ooh, girl, we in. But I still had a hard time, even as an adult, I was having a hard time embracing those attributes. But because my mind just was to that runway model and to that little rejection, that rejection, I shouldn't even say little, the rejection that I experienced of not being told I couldn't participate in the auditions, couldn't participate in the modeling. I couldn't be a part of the modeling competitions that our schools had. We had it, especially when I went to high school. They had a Miss, I went to Venona High School, shout out. They had a Miss Venona, they had a Miss Cosmos or something like that. Don't ask me, I don't know, I don't make the rules. But that was my introduction to modeling. That's what sparked wanting to do runway modeling beyond that. But sis was like, they was like, try again. Nice try. You all, let me tell you something. I'm like, I get amazed at myself sometimes. I was like young. What was I? I started a high school because it's different everywhere. I think I was just like either 13. It was 13, yeah. Because I was in grade 7. In grade 7, I finished 12. So primary school ended like in grade 7. And my birthday's in November, so whatever. Between 13 and 14, yeah, I don't remember. But the point being, at that young age, the things that I wanted when I was seeing it in terms of my body, I picked up we had a phone book, at the directory, and I looked up the Miss Zimbabwe at that time. I knew her, her first and last name. And I called this girl's house. I didn't know her. I'm amazed at myself sometimes. I'm like, girl. And I called her, and it was their landline. And I think it may have been her father. It was an older male voice sounding. And I said, hello, can I speak to, I even forgot her name. What else? And they said, hold on. And she came on the phone. She was so sweet. And I was just wanting to talk to her because I never had an older sister, and I always wanted an older sister. I have an older brother, but I'm the oldest girl child. So, and I remember talking to her about my frustrations. I told her a little bit about myself, and I was just asking her about her journey and stuff like that. And that lady was so nice. She was so nice to me. I'll never forget it. But I digress big time. So, yes. Loving yourself is very important. I realized the relationships that manifested when I was in my lowest self, when I was in my substance abuse, were that of a person who did not love themselves or know how to. And my low self-esteem ate the best out of me. I was just happy that somebody was paying me attention because of my insecurities. But now I'm embracing myself and all the hips, the butt, the boobs, the big lips. I'm like, I don't even care. I despised these things when I was younger. Lips, I was like, oh my gosh, why did I have to get my mom's lips? Like, what's going on? Big old smile. I didn't like all of that. I never used to like to smile because it just felt like I had jaws and cheeks and just big wide grin, and it's just, I don't know, it felt so awkward to me. I don't know where all this stuff comes from. Well, we may say what we watch, and then my endeavor is trying to be a runway model and whatnot. I really tried that. So it took a while. It takes a lifetime. For some, it takes a long time for us to become comfortable in our skin and to embrace who we are. So we're seeking self. So we're seeking self. Yes, we're doing that. But we're talking about the acronym of self. And S is for seek, E is for evolve, L is for love, loving yourself unconditionally. All right. And let's go down to the F in self. In the acronym is fulfillment. It should be self-fulfillment, but fulfillment. All right. Fulfillment comes in a big category. All right. So now when we look up the word fulfillment on dictionary on Google, okay? The dictionary under Oxford Languages, fulfillment, the achievement of something desired, promised, or predicted. So as it pertains to your intimate relationship desires or wants, and or as it pertains to extended relationships, if you seek self, evolve self, love self, then a fulfillment of self should be imminent. Now listen, I'm not saying I'm giving away the secret sauce, but this is just a guiding map, an ingredient to obtaining the relationships that you desire while you're here on your spiritual journey. If the goal is to desire an intimate relationship, a committed intimate relationship, to link up with a person that comes into your life so that you both can experience and enjoy this human experience together. It's important to remember self, seek self, evolve self, love self. Then fulfillment should be at one's doorstep. I love you guys that much. Think on these things, but just remember, it starts off by seeking self, putting to rest the thoughts, the contemplations, the voices from lower self, knowing that you too are capable of full love. You too are capable of someone that respects you. You too are capable of someone that loves you unconditionally, regardless of how your foundation in life was, regardless if you had a rough start in life, regardless if you never had role models in your life, regardless if life was so hard before. Now is the moment. You too deserve somebody to love you unconditionally, to be loyal to you unconditionally, to be good to you unconditionally, to support you and your endeavors unconditionally. Do you keep getting a reoccurring dream and are trying to figure out why you keep dreaming of the same dream? Or perhaps are you dreaming of teeth falling out? Or have you ever had a dream where you were naked and perhaps even naked in public? OMG, how embarrassing. Or perhaps you don't remember your dreams when you wake up. Well, check it out. Join us at the Dream Decoding podcast, where I teach you on how to train yourself to have a memory recall, and or I teach you on how to understand your dreams as it pertains to your current waking life. The importance of understanding the symbols and messages that we get in our dream realm is because sometimes these messages are coming to give us a good word and or to help us along the path. So don't miss out. Join us at the Dream Decoding podcast with your host, Memory.